Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
David Madeira with Hemp Technologies. This is our first house in the United States. It's permitted. What you've just seen is the mixture. The mixture is the most important thing. That must remain consistent. As you can see from this wall, we're doing it in sections. Now these sections have to fit together, and that consistency of the mix is crucial. Now we did these on last week. We can take down the forms now and move them up. This is a big window here. We'll lay the bottom plate in it, and then this will be protected. So what we're using here is recycled plastic in reusable plastic shutter forms that lock together tight. Sometimes we have to screw them directly into the framing, but pretty much they'll unlock, and then we use them on the outside. Now this bottom layer, we need to leave that shuttering on for 24 hours. And after 24 hours, we can remove that first layer of shuttering system. And then we take the bottom shutters and we move them up on top. Now, in the perfect world, we'd have enough shutters to do both sides. But right now, we have to keep reusing them to go around the house. So with these forms, with regular concrete, you have a slumping that causes the bottom form to go out. With hempcrete, you do not have any of this slumping, so you don't have to worry about taking the form off too early. And with concrete, what would happen is pushing the form out. And that's why your forms have to be a lot stronger. And in this case, because we don't have any slump, we don't have to worry about that. Okay, so what we have here is the hemp shiv, or also called the hurd, which is the internal part of the stem of the plant. And that's mixed with a lime-based binder. And so with that lime-based binder and the hemp, we've got a negative carbon footprint. Now the difference between lime and concrete is that lime you don't have to heat up as much. Concrete you have to heat up to almost 3,000 degrees, which takes a lot of energy and does very poorly on the carbon footprint, whereas lime does much better. Now this binder, using the lime and the hempcrete together, you have a breathable wall, but yet air doesn't pass through, so you have a much more thermodynamic situation. One of the major differences between this and straw bale is when straw bale gets wet, it doesn't do as well as this. When this gets wet, it just dries itself out naturally because of its breathing capability. And so you never have mold, you never have dry rot, and you never have termites. And so this whole wall is going to breathe. So the cellulose properties of hemp are so much better than straw. Now there might be some plant out there that's even better, but we don't know about it. Basically what this does is, because of the lime-based binder, not only does it have a carbon negative footprint, it will pull carbon dioxide out of the air after the house is built, because the lime is trying to go back to being a rock and it needs carbon dioxide to do that. That means this wall is going to get harder and harder and harder. Over time, it's going to petrify. So these walls will last for thousands of years, not at 40 years like what we're used to building. So here you can see how well in the winter conditions the hempcrete has held up. We've had freezing down to 8 degrees Fahrenheit here, back up to 32, back down. It's gotten to 40 degrees, and it's done extremely well in this weather. So once it warms up, we'll put the finishing render on it. Wow. Neato, neato, neato.
It should have mud ring on there. You guys skim coat over it. It should have mud ring. That's not a problem.
Yeah, the whole thing, yeah.
Because it has some, we're not going to bring.
It has some structural integrity too. It's a non-structural material. So it's actually encasing the frame.
It's just switch.
How about the?
And then Madison's not bad, you know, but they haven't given us anything other than that glove factory you guys know about. Wow. Yeah. And that's a sweet building.
Take a look at the exterior of the house. This is hempcrete. It's a mixture of hemp, lime, and water. And inside the house, there are a lot more green features we can show you.
We heard that we could have a really great neighborhood party if it ever caught on fire.
Karen Korp and her husband, former Asheville Mayor Russ Martin, have heard their share of jokes about their new home.
The floor plan is completely open with 14-foot walls.
Now the couple has the last laugh as they show off their hemp house.
It was about $100.
That's last month's cooling bill for the 3,400 square foot home.
The insulating factor and thermal capabilities are fantastic.
There's even more green materials inside the home. The walls and the doors are all made out of recycled paper, only a couple of inches thick and very breathable.
Breathable like the hempcrete, which we first saw when the house was under construction in November.
It's a built-in air filter, which for myself and my company is our main focus, is air quality and the non-toxicity and chemical-free aspects of material.
This is our bathroom, and it's wonderful. We have the LED lights in here, fluorescents over here. The wall is of a natural stone.
While the home sits on expensive land off Town Mountain Road, the couple says it only cost $133 per square foot to build the house. They're hoping more people will follow their lead.
I think this is really the wave of the future in looking at using renewable and recyclable materials that are a lot healthy, better for the environment, and certainly for living.
But what I want to just put this out or think about real quickly is we want people to think about the realities of alternative energy, helping the land, helping the farmer, a green economy, alternative energy, all of the buzzwords that the political system keeps throwing at us but has no substance behind it. We want people to think and consider the identity and the realities of industrial hemp as an alternative energy solution to the problems that plague this planet. Hemp will help the farmer, it will save the farmer, it will create an environment, a fresh air environment that is healthy for this planet. Industrial hemp. We're not talking about marijuana. This is about industrial hemp. This is about helping the farmer and all of the things that hemp can do. And if nothing else, remember, it makes fresh oxygen for a carbon monoxide filling sky, and it does it on an annual basis. It's a renewable energy, and it sustains us. It was the largest cultivated planet. It was the largest cultivated crop on this planet up until the 1880s. Then around the discovery of oil, because hemp could do everything that oil can do and more, and do it safely without pesticides, without attacking and destroying the land. They outlawed marijuana a long time ago, but it was the hemp that they were after, because the hemp could sustain an alternative economy. Thank you. So please think about it. Think about it. Think about it and do what makes sense. All right. Give us this day our daily yeses. Yes to life. Yes to living. Yes to caring. Yes to giving. Yes to creating. Yes to thinking. Yes to clarity. Yes to balance. Yes to being. Yes to seeing. Yes to yeses. Give us this day our daily yeses. Chaos, confusions. Confusions, chaos. Desperations, despairs. Despairs, desperations. Program, belief. Belief, program. Manipulated minds. Minds manipulated. Reactions, behaviors. Behaviors, reactions. Fearful thinking. Thinking fearful. Inside. Outside. Altering thoughts. Thought altering. Forgetting medicine. Medicine forgetting. Clear thinking. Thinking clear. Coherent. Coherence. Coherency. Coherent. Prayers given. Given prayers. Peace and love. Love and peace. Created realities. Realities created. Whatever sees. Sees whatever. We do. Do we? Give us this day our daily yeses. Yes to yeses. Yes to seeing. Yes to being. Yes to balance. Yes to clarity. Yes to thinking. Yes to creating. Yes to giving. Yes to caring. Yes to living. Yes to life. Give us this day our daily yeses.
in between the blues. There are good days and bad days, with everything and nothing to lose. While the setting sun never sits, and the night has no limits. The void between freedom and free, dealing with the unnatural reality. A need to see, a need to be. Grass fire, my DNA needs THC.
Grass fire in a world that yearns. That's the way this fire burns. Like a grass fire.
In the unnatural society, been trying to maintain, while the sane appear to be clearly insane, with no way to explain. Outlasting the great lie, a sparking spark does my mind. Grass fire, pulling the sky, breathing in sativa's design.
Grass fire in a world that yearns. That's the way this fire burns. It's a grass fire.
The void between freedom and free, dealing with the unnatural reality. A need to see, a need to be. Grass fire, my DNA needs THC. Dreaming of long times past, all that those times brought. Looking to the heart of tomorrow. Grass fire in a world that yearns. That's the way this fire burns.
So today we have built a demo wall out of hempcrete, and the purpose of this is kind of just to show people how you can build with this material in more of a practical application where you would see it as a wall with the frame, with the light switch and, you know, socket and stuff like that.
Now, hemp is absorbing a whole lot of CO2 while it is growing. So we're doing something wonderful there. The growth cycle of hemp, 90 to 120 days for the type of fiber we're looking at. And so this is a fast-growing, renewable, carbon-absorbing biomass. So a basic hempcrete recipe is 4-1-1. 4 parts industrial hemp hurd to 1 part lime-based binder to 1 part water. So we take that appropriately processed and dried hemp hurd, we add the water to it so that the hurd can soak up that water, because once we add the lime binder into the water, we're gonna start to get our chemical set. So hurd, then water, then lime, mixed together. About 7 or 8 minutes once you've got the good mix. Test it to make sure you don't have too much or too little water, which again will change with the temperature and humidity of the day, how much water you use. And then we cast that mix, that hempcrete, which is basically putting it in the wall. If it were concrete, they would call it pouring. Since it's hempcrete, we call it casting. And then we tamp around the edges and the timber framing, and we continue on up until we have gotten to the top of our form. We remove the form, put the form up a little bit higher, and repeat that process. Get 15 great people there from your community. You empower them on how to build their own home, much like the Amish barn raising, and you get your building done in a day depending on how big it is. Mix, cast, and tamp. At the end of your hempcrete home's life, that structure's life, you can actually take that hempcrete home apart, crack that hempcrete up, and put it into your next hempcrete mix. Or you could use it as some type of a soil amendment. So we're talking about reusable, recyclable, and durable. It just doesn't get any better than that.
And that gives you a U value of somewhere about 0.21 to 23. What we found though is that the performance of the building is much better than that indicated simply by the U value because of the thermal mass of the material. So where the tests have been done on completed buildings, they've found that there's almost zero energy required within the building to keep it warm, and that whatever the temperature is doing outside, it stays exactly the same inside. So it actually has a very, very good thermal performance. It's also extremely good acoustically. It absorbs sound, and so it's very, very good if you want to reduce the noise in buildings. And it also helps to buffer humidity within the building, so it actually absorbs moisture and means that it reduces the risk of mold growth and condensation in a building. So it's what's known as breathable construction. Now that's a very difficult term to define, but hemp lime really does all of those things, just in one very simple form of construction.
We've actually had to import the hemp from a producer and supplier in England. It is actually the waste crop of a hemp. It's a very valuable crop. So it's not the long fibres, it's the outer case chopped up, but fibres are very beneficial in any reinforcement. They have very good properties to bind together construction. Once on site, we take the big bales of hemp, 2 bales of those to 4 bags of the proprietary lime mix made by Tradical. They are first dry mixed in a pan mixer, which is not the normal cement mixer, much bigger and horizontal. They're mixed dry and then the controlled amount of water added. And what we end up with is a dry, crumbly mix similar to apple crumble topping, so it's not sloppy. It's dropped into the chuttering and then tamped with not too much pressure, because we're trying to keep some air pockets for the insulation benefit. The shuttering can be lifted within, say, a 12-hour period to a raised position. So we haven't had to shutter the whole building and pour the whole building. In fact, we have to do it in controlled height so we can reach to do the tamping. The shuttering comes off quite easily and you end up with quite a smooth surface, particularly if you've tamped quite carefully. It still feels soft to touch. You could put your thumb in it and would be prone to damage if people were careless with it, but actually is self-supporting. In fact, it would hold itself within.
Society is concerned with global warming and carbon emissions. Buildings and building construction account for more than half of all CO2 emissions. If we are to reduce emissions, we need to make buildings energy efficient, but we also need to use low-energy methods of achieving this. Natural materials not only help to make buildings energy efficient, but also they can make buildings healthier and function better. Natural materials generally have a much lower carbon footprint than conventional building materials. most conventional materials consume a great deal of fossil fuel energy to produce and therefore contribute to CO2 emissions.
We've been trying to find a method of building that's low carbon and energy efficient, simple and affordable, that uses natural materials. Hemp and lime mixed together seems to answer all of those needs. The technique of construction was developed in France about 10 years ago and used to a small extent there, but actually didn't really take off for some reason. We found out about the technology, did our own research. A number of people came together in the UK and we decided it was something that was commercially viable, and it's taken off to a large extent here. There are probably about 50 hempcrete buildings all over the UK, ranging from a brewery warehouse, a £20 million project, down to individual houses and even people's sort of summer houses in their garden. I mean, it's been used for all sorts of different forms of construction. Well, this building, apart from the fact that it's a small house that's for my father to live in, it's a demonstration of this technique so that we can prove that it works, we can show it to other people and to other architects, other professionals and builders, so that if you want to convince them of the technique, they can actually come along and have a look at it and see it in the flesh.
It's quite unique, hasn't been done before in Northern Ireland. So this is us able to test both the processing and the complications and detailing on a building which is for ourselves. The hemp research project was funded by DEFRA to look into hemp, which is a crop, being used as a natural insulation, but here cast with hemp. So this has led to a publication. A book has just recently been published by ourselves and other co-writers. So this is quite timely that this building is now happening exactly at this point. And in fact, we'll probably be even reviewing some of the details that are in that book, because we very much have a hands-on understanding of using the material now. We started the superstructure, that's the work above ground, 4 months ago. We started off with quite traditional footings, a normal strip footing around the building, and brought it up in block work up to subfloor level, unavoidably using cement, which we had to do and be pragmatic about that. And then we started the primary structure, and what we decided to do was to start off actually with the principal, the posts and the beams holding the roof structure, to end up with a sheltered framework. And that was followed by the stud work around the perimeter, which is then being cast around with the hemp and lime. The hemp needs a sort of rethinking in terms of what we call traditional building construction, because we've been using a cavity block construction for the last century really, and a lot of plastics in buildings. So this is a monolithic construction, and the insulation properties of the hemp are both that it's a good insulant but also has thermal mass. Monolithic means that it's one material right through. It does have a stud wall buried in the middle of it, but it isn't layers of separate materials. So even timber frame construction, which is favoured by a lot of people who are trying to improve insulation, has too many layers and too many different processes, and that's what we're trying to reduce. This is the primary structure carrying the roof load. That's Douglas fir, locally sourced, and that was constructed at the beginning of the process. Here you can see the tail end of the shuttering, which is yet to be removed, and this section it has been taken away. This is cast just a few days ago and still soft to the touch but firm. You can see it's solid enough. This is the stud wall that's sitting in the middle of that 300 thick lime casting, so that's permanent with some noggings, cross noggings for stiffness. And here we're back to a section that's not finished being cast yet. This is the base of the posts here with a rigid fixing, so we got rigidity in the whole building frame from the start, sitting on its own padstone and the subfloor level there below. This is the radon barrier coming up tucked into the DPC, and we have the electrics that we had to put this ducting in ahead of the hemp being cast. Here we have one of the electric sockets which we've cast into the wall because it wouldn't be practical to try and chase this material, so you've got to cast them in at the time. And then here we've got the window reveal, which is lined with the Heraclith board, which is a permanent shutter, and that would stay in place.
The main thing that architects want to know about this is how well does it work from a thermal point of view. So a 300mm thick wall like the one we're building here will provide good enough insulation to meet Part L of the building regulations, depending on whether you're in Northern Ireland or England.
Yeah.
during times of shadow. In the background of burst, the sun waits for the moon to torch the night. Torch the night. In the broken neon and faded light, the lucky motel at the corner of nowhere and the past, where memories go to forget, laughing to erase. Her name is Lacey. He makes his crazy kind of crazy. His name is Want. She can hear it. She wants want, but doesn't want to. Sparks of the stars, burnings, strong heat. He is like flame. As her fire awaits, she is a pulse in the charging light, as a passion of storm, fiery rain, lightning carries thunder. She's a good girl, coming to understand that sometimes this is what good girls do, what good girls do. In the breath of sighs, in the magic of moan, they held them together so as not to feel so alone, so alone, so alone during times of shadow. In the background of burst, the sun waits for the moon to torch the night, torch the night. In the breath of sighs, in the magic of moan, they held it together so as not to feel so alone, so alone, so alone. See the woman. She has a young face, an old face. She carries herself well through the ages. She survives all man has done. In some tribes, she is free. In some religions, she is under man. In some societies, she is worth what she consumes. In some nations, she has delicate strength. In some states, she is told she is weak. In some classes, she is property owned. In all instances, she is sister to earth. In all conditions, she is life bringer. In all life, she is our necessity. See the woman smile. Flowers swaying on scattered hills. Sun dancing, calling in the bees. See the woman heart. Lavender butterflies fronting blue sky. Misty rain falling on soft wild roses. See the woman beauty, lightning streaking, dark summer nights. Forest of pines mating with new winter snow. See the woman spirit, daily serving courage with laughter. Her breath, a dream and a prayer. See the woman, she has a young face, an old face. She carries herself well through the ages. She survives all man has done.
A few years ago I set up a company called HAB, Happiness Architecture Beauty, as a development company. But we're finishing this scheme in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. It's a scheme of about 42 homes called the Triangle, and designed by a wonderful award-winning British architect, Glenn Howells. My great difficulty is that every new scheme we're building 7 now. I look at the range of materials out there. I cannot find one to match hemp. I can't find one that has such a low embodied energy, that locks carbon in, that has such a low environmental impact, that can be grown locally and harvested with minimum inputs in a matter of just a few months. It's an incredibly expedient building method. Every other system I look at involves a skin and a structure and an insulation and then you're worrying about where the thermal mass goes. And I cannot find a material which does what hemp does. We made a television series about this project, and we went off and planted a field of hemp and over 12 or 14 weeks watched it grow to 4 meters tall. And that was next to a power station, which was rather neat. So, and the trains went by and the motorway went by, and you saw the plumes of smoke coming out of the chimneys of the power station. You thought, this field of hemp is absorbing all the CO2 and dirt, and we're going to build houses with it. So for me, there's a tremendous excitement in the pioneering notion of using this material. The project manager here on site said to me he loved the material because we'd had this lorry reversing on site, a big cement mixing lorry. Instead of pouring out heavy, wet, toxic, caustic concrete, it would instead pour out this sort of fluffy, lightweight stuff that looks like sawdust. It didn't require any power tools. So all we had was buckets and barrows and blokes. And because there are no power tools, there are no cables everywhere. And it actually makes for a very, very healthy, very safe building site, hemp. It's a very, very builder-friendly material. I mean, you know, it's a no-brainer.
We have a number of cannabis medicines here. This is a Park Davis cannabis tincture. It's got about half of its contents, and this is Indian cannabis. It's an ounce, was an ounce when it was full, of powdered cannabis resin, or powdered extract of dry cannabis. And right next to it, we have the same thing, only from Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly, powdered extract of cannabis. And then right over here, you can't hardly see it in there, but this is another Sharpened Dome powdered extract of cannabis. So these were little jars of hashish that were used, or this is actually Merrill Company. It says 1 ounce here on the back. And then next to it we have this cough balsam that actually has a insert with 13 different languages on it. But you can see this was alcohol, cannabis indica, chloroform, and this stuff would really just pretty much knock you out. And here's the little bottle of it here, still with the contents in it. And here's the thing with 13 different languages on it. Right next to it, we have our hemp flame of freedom. This is hemp seed oil. This is the reason that marijuana was made illegal, folks. It's because the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, elite, fascist, ruling class do not want us to power our vehicles on this oil. And so this is a demonstration that this stuff will do it. And here's a little hemp fiber, hemp wick. And last but not least, hempcrete. This is a building material that's been used for thousands of years. It's powdered hemp stems, marijuana stems with powdered limestone that makes something very similar, stronger, and lighter than concrete. So there's our hemp show and tell for the day. So Dr. Knox, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you here? We're down to just about 2.5 minutes to go. Is that, I know is there any plug you want to put out there?
Well, definitely I can put out a plug here. We've got a couple of aliases here with my wife and daughters. We're known as the Canna MDs. And we have a website. We get periodic emailed questions and all. As Rachel mentioned, we were founders of the American Cannabinoid Clinics. We called it the Cannabinoid Clinics because really our focus is the endocannabinoid system. It's not just the phytocannabinoids; it's everything else in life that works on your endocannabinoid system. And so we have our website, the acclinics.com, and you can find our information there.
And that nice article in the Washington Post.
Yeah.
Just look them up.
Yes.
Talks about that.
And we did just have an article come out in the HuffPost, too, if you want to learn a little bit more about us.
So we are down to just about a minute and 20 seconds. John Cornett's standing by in the wings. We also have a number you can call if you need help finding a physician. You might even see Dr. Knox here if you call us at that number there on your screen, 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. I want to thank you for coming on, David. I appreciate it. Thank you, too. Right. Eric, thank you, viewers. Mr. John Cornett will be playing a song on the way out. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp.
Like that.